Familia.
Hey,
Everyone. Good morning, fellas.
What's going on, yo? How's everybody?
Man, let me do some quick intros. I really appreciate you guys on that, impromptu, right quick. So I know y'all on the clock doing your things. So I got my man Marc Bermudez up there. He works for a book publishing company. We go to the same church. He's a drummer. He's a just all out good dude. Um, he's a suspect fan. I don't know, man. Like, you know, he loves his teams, Jay, but then he just goes crazy on them. Like, you know what I mean?
It's called passion. It's called passion.
And then I got my man Joey Madera. Joey Madera is a worship leader. He works for Crew, father of two, and just loves the Lord and is passionate about sports. He's a Met fan. Last year, 2 years ago, we got to go see the Mets. Jason was on the Mets too. Oh,
Right,
there we go, yo.
That's right.
So, but he's a very intelligent, faithful, and respectful fan, not like Mark. Mark would be like, trade him. We done with him. That's it. I don't want to know more.
What it is.
And my man Jay Curry, he's with Big Apple Basketball. Very prominent basketball organization in New York City. He's in Queens as well, and but he roams throughout the whole city, obviously. And he's now one of my DeVos Urban Leadership Initiative homies. You ain't graduate yet, Jay. Get all the books in so you can be official alumni. I ain't giving it to you yet. So, the reason I wanted to kick it to you guys, man, is I'm doing something called Sports Talk, and it's really just random. I'm trying not to let people get prepared or anything. So I want us to kind of be at this place, man, where we kind of give short answers, but give me your thought. And it's really just everyday conversation wrapped around sports. And then my hope is that in the conversation, some way, somehow, we get into some redemptive point of views. So I call some other coaches, and just from an FCA perspective, Mark and Joey are donors to the ministry. They've been supporting the ministry for a long time. They know what we do. They New Yorkers. Well, Joey was in New Jersey. So, he got that.
the real Giants home, by the way.
That's true. That's true. I ain't go front. I'm glad he didn't do the Mets Jets, because he's a G man. He down with the G men. So that's good. Jay, you down? You down with the Jets, ain't you?
Absolutely.
Ooh.
You got quiet.
Yeah, let me pull that out right there.
Absolutely. You didn't have to ask that.
Mets, Jets, Nets, or you down with the Knicks?
Nah, Knicks. Yeah.
All right. So we
And then for hockey, I go Rangers.
Oh, yes, sir. You got to stay at the Garden.
Absolutely.
So here's the deal. I want to touch on two things this morning. One, the NCAA are now saying they're going to start paying for educated related costs, start paying some of their student athletes. I want to just talk about that. Like, y'all guys, man, y'all think it's good? You think it's bad? I'm gonna address you first, Jay. I don't know if you heard anything about that, but what's your thoughts on that in general?
Yeah, so I saw it yesterday, and my take on it is two things. I think that people sometimes are a little misled in thinking that the student athletes aren't paid, where in reality, I mean, I feel like maybe at least for the past 6, 7, 8 years, student athletes have been getting paid. And I think the term is actually called cost of attendance, where basically a lot of the bigger Division I institutions, based upon it's almost like a sliding scale per se, but at the bigger conferences, kids might be getting $10,000 a year. On the lower conferences, it might be a little bit lower. But the NCAA has been taking steps, and student athletes have actually already been getting paid. So the reality is that I think the bigger thing is now is they're really not getting paid based upon what the NCAA is bringing in terms of revenue. But to technically say kids aren't getting paid or haven't been getting paid is absolutely not true.
Yes.
But
So it's not a scholarship enough. I mean, some of these schools, I mean, they, you know, I'm assuming they're like in that $40,000 range, and we could say $15,000 to $40,000 a year. That's good money, man, to get your education. So what is it just not enough, fam? Do you think it should be more? Joey, what you think, man?
Man, that's a tough one. Because I mean, this conversation has been had and the argument has been made that like universities make a ton of revenue from, from people going to these games and the draw that these athletes provide. And so they're saying like they deserve a cut, kind of like NBA players get for professional franchises. And that's a hard argument to kind of go against, I think, to some degree. Yes, they are getting a free education. Man, that's a tough one. I think in some aspects, yeah, it'd be good for them to, at the same time, then I feel like it's going to sway a lot of like athletes. They're just going to go to the schools that pay the most revenue. So then now there's going to be like these super dynasties that are going to form more than they already do because of like who's coaching, like Kentucky. I would say Duke, but Coach K is leaving. And so then like just any kind of major universities like that the coach is the draw. Now there's going to be this second thing that can kind of pull athletes based on income, you know, if they're getting paid.
So, Mark, any thoughts on that?
Nah, yeah, they both touched on, you know, valid points because one, like Joey said, you know, and you said they're getting a free education. And I wouldn't say that that's necessarily not enough because there's a lot of kids from the hood that don't really have that opportunity and wouldn't have that money to be able to go to those big schools if they didn't have that opportunity. But on the other hand, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'll be honest, I follow more NFL and NBA a little bit more than I do the college sport realm. But a lot of times when these big players come to these schools, is it not the recruitment process that's happening? And it's like the school wants this particular player. So if they want you, then they should pay for your schooling, I feel. But you know, so that's one aspect of it. But then, you know, like Joey said earlier, these guys are getting, you know, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and I can kind of get into the player's head a little bit. And I'm like, yo, what if I get hurt? You know, I'm going all out trying to do something to make it to this next level, and I'm not getting any compensation at all.
Right.
But then you have the other side. So it's a tough one. Like Joey said, I mean, you got so many different angles to this.
So it'd be interesting to see how this thing plays itself out because the major colleges are going to be throwing fundings. I'm imagining they're going to have some type of cap or it's going to be a bidding war. And imagine what that's going to do, you know, to kids in high school and middle school and parents. It might be even some level of abuse. Nah, you're going to go out there, you're going to play, you're going to practice because you got to bring this money in, this and that. And then you're going to have like these people, you know, headhunting these particular players and can't pay everybody. Who knows? Some dudes might have the crazy practice squad, but they paying more. This thing is crazy, Jay. So Jay, what do you tell somebody as a coach? Like, where to you know, draw the line on your passion, whether you're just getting paid or you're gonna get playing time. So you might want to go to a smaller school so you could play the sport that you love, or just sell out to get this money and this education.
yeah,
How you gonna manage that, bro?
I would absolutely say, you know, as believers, I would never tell anybody to put money first. Because there's just so many things that in the long run will be much more important than that short-term money. Because in reality, most of the money that we're talking about if you talk to any of these student athletes another 10 years and you ask them what they did with that money from college, it probably wouldn't have been anything useful, and you probably wouldn't even remember how they spent it. So at the end of the day, my advice would be, go where you feel most comfortable, go where you feel like you're wanted, go where you feel like you can get an opportunity, and then obviously pray on it, and the money will take care of itself.
Man,
That's my, I'm a firm believer in that.
That's the drop the mic moment right there for sure, right? Because I mean, I think all of us have probably made the mistake, and that's the conversation, where you did something for some cheddar, for some blue cheese. That's what the young bucks are calling it now, the blue cheese, the $100 bills with the blue stripe on it. My daughter taught me that the other day, because my man Manny, the director of New York City, said, "You still saying cheddar? You so old school." Look, they call it blue cheese now. Respect. But yeah, that's so good, man. And part of what we're trying to do is, when we start talking about sports, like fans do, coaches do, how can we turn that into a conversation that's redemptive, that's encouraging? And I love that. We don't do what we do just for money. We do because we have a passion and we feel called to it. All right, next question.
I'll share a quick story.
Yeah.
And I've been working in this space with Big Apple basketball for 21 years now, and have advised a lot of families and kids in terms of colleges. But my walk with God is relatively new, 4 years now. And this past spring, I have a young man. He's very close. Like, he calls me Uncle Jason. He's like my nephew. I've known him since he was born. His father and I actually played college basketball together. And this was my first time actually ever walking a kid through the recruiting process, with God leading, with allowing God to lead us through the recruiting process, and literally praying through every step, and him trying to decide where I should go to school, and just patience, and doors opening and doors closing. And nothing about my advice to him was based upon any type of basketball experience. And this kid wound up being the last recruit that Coach K ever signed. And he's a freshman at Duke now. Right. And during that entire process, we never talked about money. And everything was led by God. And literally at the last minute, this thing with Coach K wound up opening itself up. But again, I just think that kind of ties into what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Advising, whatever. And now he's at Duke playing for Coach K. And I'll finish up with this. During the process, I actually told him that I didn't want to know what school he was going to choose. I wanted to be surprised by everybody else. He called me on the Thursday. You can appreciate this, Frank. He called me on the Thursday and said, "Uncle Jason, I'm ready to make my decision." And I said, "Okay, Jalen, don't tell me the school." But I said, "Have you called the coach yet?" He said, "No, I wanted to call you first to pray." And now we look about it. Before he even called Coach K to tell Coach K that he was committing to Duke, he called me first because he wanted prayer. And he literally made his decision, his public announcement, Frank, when you were in Florida, in Orlando, and you got up on stage to make when you spoke to us, that was the exact moment that he went public to make his announcement for Duke.
Wow, man, that's what's up, man. I can't wait to be cheering that brother when he start crossing dudes over. Oh, man. Yo, you got me confused. You got a Golden Gophers Minnesota shirt on. And what's the W for, man?
Nah, the W, it doesn't stand for Washington anymore. I forgot where I got this hat from. Might have been like Old Navy or
George. George W. Bush.
Nah, definitely not George W. Bush.
It's red. I don't know, man. I'm checking you out, man. Joey, I'm watching you too, man. I'm gonna got the binoculars. Make sure you ain't got your kids practicing after midnight in the back to get that college money, bro.
Nah, never that. Never that.